Hello everybody! It's that time of year again. With 2015 over and done, it's time to look forward to the future and see what cool games are coming out in 2016. Which, in comparison to 2015, isn't looking quite as exciting, but there are still some games that I am dying to play. This video is going to follow the same concept as my list for last year. I will only be including games on this list that are confirmed to be coming out in 2016. I know a new Pokemon game, either Z or the next generation, are all but confirmed to be coming soon, and that Pikmin 4 is close to completion, and that Monster Hunter Cross might please come to the West this year, but none of those games have been confirmed, so none of them will be on this list. Also, this may come as a shock to some, but there is a very high chance that I might not be interested in the same games that you are. Shocking, right? But I humbly ask you to please contain your rage when you see that, say, Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem didn't make the list. I'm sorry, but nothing I've seen about that game appeals to me. And finally, I don't own a PS4 or an Xbox One. So as excited as I would be for The Last Guardian, Horizon Zero Dawn, or Final Fantasy 15, I can't actually play those games when they release. And as such, I am excluding them from this list. That's all the stuff that I need to go over. This is a fairly straightforward concept, so let's get started on overhyping ourselves for the games coming out in 2016! I'm going to be honest. I had a very difficult time just finding 10 games that I was excited enough for to include on this list. It got to the point that I was seriously considering putting Metroid Prime Federation Force as my number 10 entry. But then I went back through E3 2015 and remembered that this hidden gem was shown. The art style. That art style! Oh my gosh, that art style! Yeah! Cuphead looks just like the old Mickey Mouse cartoons. I used to watch those at my grandparents' house when I was a kid. Oh, I'm on the verge of nostalgic tears of joy just looking at this gameplay. Held back only by the fact that the art style may very well be the only thing I'll enjoy about it. Cuphead is a run-and-gun, bullet hell type of game, designed to break your spirit with a small health bar, punishingly cruel difficulty, and bosses that live for way longer than they should. Historically, I've always been terrible at these kinds of games. The frustration normally gets the better of me, and I end up being unable to play them. If I am able to tough it out and master this game, Cuphead will definitely be an enjoyable experience. But as of now, I am literally too scared of the game's difficulty to put it any higher on the list. On my last anticipated games list, there were two games that I was decently excited for that ended up getting delayed to this year. Thankfully, they were my number 10 and 9 entries, so I wasn't too disappointed. In hindsight, the delays were definitely a good thing. Exactly what those games needed. More time, more improvements, more content, I can get behind that. It hopefully fixes my biggest issue with this particular game. But unfortunately for its placing on this list, while the delays did give me hope that more content will appear in the game, I still don't know enough about Zelda Wii U. I'm so sorry, Zelda. But after my experiences with Battlefront EA, I refuse to get hyped for a game that I know almost nothing about. All that's been said so far is that the game will have a massive overworld that you can explore either on foot or on your horse, that you can interact with nature to some degree, you can have these bullet time, mid-air, badass moments, and that it will Rethink the conventions of Zelda! Whatever that means. Which sounds really cool, but we've known that since 2014. Sorry, but I need more info than that. Let me see a dungeon, some different items, new locations, something. All I have to look forward to is a concept. A very cool concept, yes. But until I see some substantial new info on this game, I'm not going to get excited. As someone who didn't own a video game console up until the GameCube, and has never, ever owned a Sony, Sega, or Microsoft console, I have missed out on an awful lot of games over the years. There are a ton of classic, cherished games and franchises that I have never even touched. But out of all the games that I've never played, the ones that I regret missing the most have got to be the ones from Rare's golden age. Donkey Kong Country, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Battletoads, and of course, Banjo and Kazooie. Everything I see about Banjo and Kazooie tells me that I would love to play it. I love collectathons, and I hate that I can't find a way to properly play it. I am seriously, dangerously close to getting an Xbox One solely to get to Rare Replay. But until that eventual cave-in, I won't get to play the Banjo and Kazooie gameplay that I've been missing out on. Or can I? Oh boy, do I love Kickstarter games! And hate them. But Ukulele seems to be the perfect example of a Kickstarter done right. Quite possibly the best example, depending on how it turns out. It was so beautiful watching the passionate fans of the series fund the game in just half an hour, hitting its highest stretch goal in less than a day, and end up giving the game a total of $3 million. Over all of the games on this list, I am hoping and dreaming that this game can live up to the expectations of the fans. Because in this case, it's not just a hope of them making a good game. It's a prayer that Ukulele can preserve the legacy of Banjo and Kazooie. 'Cause, let's be honest, Microsoft isn't doing anything useful with them. Wasn't last year's E3 the best? Well, unless you're a Nintendo fan. There were some cool games announced, some great conferences, and Sony blew everyone out of the water with Last Guardian, Shenmue 3, and... what? Oh, that's just cruel, Sony. Yeah, there's no way that this is actually happening. This is just a joke. You guys are the worst. Looking back through the conferences, the one thing that stood out to me over everything else, besides Sony's childish prank here, getting me all excited for a Final Fantasy VII remake that obviously will never happen, was a little section of the EA conference, of all things. A little game called Unravel. This was the most genuine presentation that I have ever seen. The developer of the game, Martin Solin, came onto the stage, hands shaking, nearly paralyzed by stage fright, but toughing out his fear to tell everyone about something that he loved, something that he had made, a tiny, sentient creature named Yarny, who is made of yarn that represents love, who unravels as he travels away from the thing that he loves. Aww, that was adorable. Martin Solin, you have all of my respect. All of it. Your puzzle platformer looks like something I'm definitely going to enjoy. There was obviously a lot of heart put into it. However, I won't let myself get too hyped for this one. It seems to be in a very Undertale-y position. A kind of game that I should go into with few expectations, so I can enjoy it to its maximum potential. This way, I'll be pleasantly surprised if the game is great, and happily content if it's merely okay. I could literally just copy and paste Zelda's intro right here. I was excited for this game, but it was delayed, etc, etc. Except with Star Fox Zero, I actually know stuff about the game now. Ah yes, the classic rail shooting gameplay of Star Fox 64. The same iconic characters as Star Fox 64. The same planets as Star Fox 64. So basically, this is just a remake of Star Fox 64. What's that, Nintendo? It's a reimagining, not a remake. What is the difference? Yup, this is a remake of Star Fox 64. Now don't get me wrong, Star Fox 64 was fun. If this is a new version of that game, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. There are some new cool features. The transformations in particular are a lovely breath of fresh air. But I've yet to see anything about this game to really get me excited for it. For me, it's just kind of there. It's kind of like getting a Hershey's chocolate bar. I know it's gonna taste good, I'm definitely gonna eat it, but there's nothing about it to make it stand out over other candy bars. Isn't it such a shame that that Final Fantasy VII remake will never happen? It's such an amazing series! The turn-based combat, fleshed out characters, great music, interesting stories. Sometimes. It's a fantastic turn-based RPG series. At least, it was. Nowadays, Square Enix seems content with throwing the Final Fantasy name onto whatever game they're working on, and pretending that it's the next game in the series. It doesn't automatically make the games bad. Final Fantasy 15 actually looks really cool. But I hate the practice of changing the genre of a series. It completely alienates fans of that genre. They lose a series that they love. And sometimes we don't get it back. Thankfully, Square Enix actually is still making games like the classic Final Fantasies. They just aren't called Final Fantasy. Bravely Second is the sequel to Bravely Default, a nostalgic throwback to the old Final Fantasy games. You control the party of 3 very likable characters, and another character, as you travel the world attempting to save 4 crystals based on the 4 elements. The game made some very innovative strides with the turn-based RPG formula. The Brave and Default abilities, allowing you to either use multiple attacks in one turn, or skip your turn, increase your defense, and store the turn to use later, added an entirely new layer of possible strategies to use while fighting. Then you add the customizable special moves, adding even more strategic depth. And then you add in the fact that you have 20 completely different jobs to draw abilities from to customize your characters, and it becomes absurd how much you can do in this game. Bravely Second is going to have even more. More jobs, new characters, a continuation of a great story. I can't wait. Well, decent. The game kind of made you play through it 5 times, but it was still good. I can't wait. I like it when games give me the time to plan out my attacks, to strategize how to defeat my opponent, and I prefer to have a lot of options as to what I can do. Bravely Second should be a lot of fun in that regard, but I'm not terribly fond of the random encounter aspect of those types of games. I would rather have set encounters, where I can see all of my opponents at once. That way, I can strategically command my units to set up choke points and ambushes, getting to thoroughly outsmart opponents while feeling like a brilliant tactician. Are there any games like that coming out soon? Perfect! Oh, how I adore Fire Emblem. I have yet to play a Fire Emblem game that I didn't love. It's a tried and true formula that I doubt I'll ever get sick of. And this time around, they're adding in a branching path feature, allowing us to experience 3 entirely different stories in one game. It sounds absolutely amazing, almost too good to be true. Fully deserving of being my #1 most anticipated game for this year. But it's only at number 4. Why is that? It has been heavily advertised that you'll have to make an extremely difficult choice in this game between siding with the family that you were separated from at birth or the family that raised you. Once you side with one, you'll have to fight the other. That is an amazing story concept! Getting to know characters on both sides, forming attachments with both, but being forced to choose one and possibly kill the other? Why, Nintendo? Why must you do this to me? Oh wait, you're not, because that's not how it actually works. Fire Emblem has gone the Pokemon route, and is releasing Fates as 3 separate versions, instead of one big one. Take a wild guess at what the difference is between Fire Emblem Birthright, Fire Emblem Conquest, and Fire Emblem Revelation. That nail-biting choice that you were forced to make in this game, that huge moral dilemma, you actually make it before you play the game. Look at the cover of either game, decide which characters look the coolest, I guess, and that's the big decision. What?! This is such a shady business move, Nintendo. I feel betrayed. You shoved this big choice down my throat for so long, getting me so hyped for such a massive Fire Emblem game, only to reveal that I have to pay extra to get the advertised experience? Nintendo, I really hate you for doing this. Now take my money. I may be a bit mad, but at the end of the day, I can essentially buy 3 games in one of my favorite series for the price of 2, which is awesome! The marketing behind this game is something that will always upset me, but as long as the game is good, I think I can forgive them. Oh my gosh, that makes it sound like I have an abusive relationship. It doesn't matter how much Nintendo wounds me. As long as they keep giving me gifts, I'll still love them. Pokemon's 20th anniversary is shaping up to be something truly special, which is great. It'll make up for how little Nintendo's going to do for Metroid and Kid Icarus. Among this massive celebration is surely going to be a new main series Pokemon game, but I have yet to hear anything about it, so I can't put it on this list. So instead, I'll look forward to a different kind of Pokemon game, one that looks like an absolute blast to play. I'm surprised that it took so long to make a Pokemon fighting game. Lots of different Pokemon to choose from, several of which are literally fighting type Pokemon. Seems like a no-brainer, right? Yet it's only with the 20th anniversary of Pokemon that we're finally getting one. Ah well, better late than never. The characters of Pokemon and the gameplay of Tekken mesh together perfectly. It's easily the best looking Pokemon game in existence, And the fighters, oh, I love what they've done with the fighters. Pokken Tournament could have just gone with what everyone was expecting. A bunch of fighting type Pokemon to fill the roster. But no! Only 3 of these Pokemon are fighting types. The rest are all over the place. Ice, fire, flying, dragon, more fire, ghost, more fire. There's a lot of fire. And they chose some of the strangest Pokemon. Who in their right mind would have guessed that Suicune would be a playable fighter? Or Chandelure? Chandelure! It's such a stupid choice. But now that I have it, the idea of beating somebody up as a light fixture is my greatest fulfilled dream that I never knew I had. And of course, they've got some fan favorites. Gengar, Blaziken, Gardevoir, Garchomp. It's gonna be so much fun. Now, if they would just add my favorite Pokemon Sceptile, I'd be perfectly content with this roster. Wait, what's this? A new character trailer? Oh my gosh, yay! Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? No. Oh! Yes! Ha ha! I got one! I got one of the characters I wanted to Smash Bros. DLC. It was in the wrong game, but hey, it's something. I can't stand it when people judge a game based on how realistic its graphics are. Ignoring the fact that it's an unbearably narrow-minded view that ignores everything else a game has to offer, it also unfairly ruins any chance a person has of enjoying stylized games. Which is a shame. A creative art style has so much more to offer than the never-ending competition to see who can make the best-looking foliage. Constraining yourself with making games realistic feels to me like missing the entire point of what makes a game a game. I don't play games for realism. I play games because they are fun. Screw you, generic shooter number 7. If I wanted to see good graphics, I'd walk outside. I'd rather play Team Fortress 2, where I can use a rocket launcher as a super jump, where a metagun is an actual, possible thing, and where a dead fish is a viable option as a weapon. My only complaint is that it gets so close to a Pixar-like art style without ever actually achieving it. But then again, that's probably for the better. You saw how happy I was about the Disney cartoon art style. If I saw a Pixar art style, I would immediately die of happiness.
There you are.
Psst, what are you looking at?
Ugh. Set in a war-torn future of Earth, a diverse group of heroes called Overwatch oversees the peace of the planet. These heroes battle their enemies in what looks to be an FPS MOBA hybrid. You play from a first-person perspective, having to aim and shoot and such, but you have abilities and hero classes, like a MOBA. It's a neat concept that I don't think has ever been done before. If that doesn't set it apart from other FPSs, the characters definitely will. Overwatch features one of the most diverse casts I've ever seen. Let's see, we have a Korean pro gamer who pilots a giant pink mech, a Brazilian DJ laser roller skater who fights with sound and music, a genetically enhanced sentient gorilla from the first base on the moon, and a Himalayan monk who also happens to be a robot. I adore the characters already. They couldn't have picked a better art style. The gameplay is going to keep me entertained for ages. It's a very interesting concept, and it's being made by my favorite developer. The only reason it isn't number 1 is because Blizzard hasn't sent me an invite to the beta. And that just makes me sad. So, funny story. I've been making this video since early January, and I planned on it coming out before any of the games on this list did. It was February 4th, the day before my #1 entry released, and I was almost done. I planned to go pick up my copy of the game the next day, and use it as a motivator of sorts, to get myself to finish the video on time. So I bought the game, and in my defense, I was able to work for 5 whole minutes before I gave up resisting. And so, this video was delayed several more weeks by XCOM 2. Sorry. I know, it's lame. I couldn't finish the video before the game came out. And now that it has, this entire entry is kind of pointless. Same with Unravel and Fire Emblem. But I had the audio done for those entries before I played them, so I felt okay with keeping them as is. But for XCOM, I guess I could fake the anticipation? But that just feels dishonest. I already know how it compares to what I was anticipating. Gameplay? Great. New alien designs? Amazing. Nail-biting difficulty? In all of the right places. Developer-supported mods? Yes, thank you. And that's just scratching the surface. I can at least say that this game did manage to satisfy my excitement. It didn't surpass it. There are a ridiculous amount of performance issues and glitches, but I think the 80 hours I've already put into the game show that XCOM 2 did deserve to be my #1 most anticipated game of this year. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm sorry that it took so long to make, but I do think it was worth it. If it weren't for those delays, I wouldn't have fixed the audio, which means it would still sound like this. Alright guys, it's that time of year again. So yeah, definitely worth it. I really like how it turned out, and I hope you guys do too. If you did like it, please like the video, share it with those who might also enjoy it, leave a comment about the games that you can't wait for, and subscribe to my channel. It helps my channel grow and motivates me to make more content. A win-win situation for everyone. But if you didn't like it, that's okay. I have more than enough fans to deal with a few haters. So please, dislike the video, leave an angry comment, and subscribe to hate my future videos as well. If you're still here, you probably enjoyed this video. So might I suggest checking out the panels on screen. The one on the left leads to my other top 10s, while the one on the right leads to my gaming reviews. Unfortunately, those are victim to me not knowing how to use a microphone, so they have a quality of a school intercom. But if you can stomach that, I would recommend them. Or maybe you're a denizen of the dark realm known as Twitter, in which case, follow me there. It's a good way to stay up to date on the content that I'm making. And lastly, our monthly content highlight. I'm doing a different content highlight for March, but this was supposed to come out in February, and the person I was highlighting there only got one video, and that was my poorly made, 2-hour-long, lazy recap video that's, I don't blame anybody for not watching. So please, check out the Scientific Pokedex. It's like a Mythbusters for Pokemon. Ever wonder how Arcanine can run at speeds at 260 miles per hour? Or how Dual Blade acts as one Pokemon, even though there are 2 separate swords? Or maybe you don't understand echolocation, and how Zubat uses it. Never fear. This blog goes through the vast world of Pokemon, finding interesting tidbits of Pokemon science to share. Even going so far to explain how the science works. Thanks to this blog, I now know that Zubat emits sounds higher than 20 kHz, which reflect off of objects into Zubat's massive ears, allowing it to see without eyes. I'd be willing to bet that information will never be useful in my life, but I consider myself a better person for having learned it. Seriously though, I highly recommend it. That's all I have to say for now, so thank you all for watching. I hope you are all enjoying life, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Star Fox Zero? Oh my god. Star Fox Zero. Seriously? Who puts a Z next to an X in a title?